In the last episode of Project Africa, we got stopped by the police near the legendary pyramid of Meidum.
This is the police and they're arriving. We're man.
They took our bikes in their pickup trucks and drove us somewhere unknown. We had no idea where we were going, and it was as scary as thrilling. It was only the second night of my cycling journey across Africa from Cairo to Cape Town, and we had already hit our first major obstacle along the way, the Egyptian police.
Holy sh**! The cops! The f***ing cops! They're here!
They had found us and were going to escort us very closely for the rest of our cycling in Egypt. Or so they thought.
We just escaped again, baby.
This is the tale of how I got involved in a 3-week, 800-kilometer police chase all along the Nile.
Welcome to Egypt, guys!
How I deeply struggled with a new addictive substance. And how I became an actual celebrity amongst the local kids of rural Egypt.
Project Africa!
This is episode 2 of Project Africa. Every country has its facade, what it's known for in the world, what people visit it for. And in the location where we were now, that facade was pretty obvious. The land of the ancients, of history, of early civilization, the pyramids, the massive temples, and all the pharaonic vestiges.
Wow.
Egypt. It's so legendary that almost anyone that has access to basic education, books, or films knows about it. Very few countries have the privilege of being so well known internationally. But I believe that like any country that is highly touristic, there are two very different sides to it. The second side is more mysterious. It's an Egypt that has rarely been documented before, the Egypt where Egyptians actually live in. And for me, I was not only here to explore the Egypt that is exclusively reserved for tourism, as impressive as it already is. I'm slow traveling on a bike for a year, transporting everything I need to live anywhere, and stopping along the way as much as I need to wander, learn, and see for myself what the country and its people really are about. But now it seems that it wasn't going to be possible anymore. Let me introduce you to the phenomenal Egyptian police.
Egypt is infamous among cyclists for having the police following you for miles and miles.
The Egyptian police are known for being a pain in the ass. They will not let any foreigner go where the government doesn't want them to go. Why? We still couldn't fully understand the logic behind it. They say it's for safety reasons and that most of Egypt is really dangerous. It is said that one bad incident with a foreigner can dent the tourism industry, which consists of 12 to 15% of the GDP of the country.
With Egypt, it's a cat and mouse game. Cyclists need to just find a way to take specific country roads to avoid getting spotted by police.
But now it was too late. On our second day only, we were spotted in Meidum and the police was not going to let us go. So this is where the adventure continues. That same night, the police drove us to a hotel nearby that we were forced to pay for. Here's where the night ends. And the next day, they were waiting right in front of it.
Day 3 starts perfectly well. We're being escorted by the police from Meidum to Beni Suef. My handlebar bag broke. I lost 2 items, my selfie stick for the Insta360 and my GPS. So yeah, it sucks. We want to go outside of our comfort zones and be able to cycle and have all the freedom to do whatever the f*** we want. And unfortunately, they don't get this.
If it's not already obvious enough, we were having a police escort for the rest of the day. We had to follow one specific highway and get to our destination as soon as possible. That's the best deal we got, because initially we weren't even allowed to cycle. There was a very clear conflict of interests. We wanted to have the most authentic and raw cycling along the Nile, meet and speak to locals, take beautiful gravel roads, and be in proximity of nature. What the local police want? Get rid of the responsibility of following us as soon as possible. That means putting our bikes in their truck and either driving us to the next city and delegating the responsibility of keeping us safe to the next squad in the next town, or forcing us to take the train back to Cairo. So yeah, for now, let's not complain. We were still able to cycle.
We got the police car behind us, and the police is really bored because obviously a car goes faster than a bike.
They're quite the doofy. Or doofy. I think that's the plural. Doofy.
They're doofy, boy. This is gonna be with us until we reach Sudan, so we need to get used to it.
Let's be honest. That day was the worst day of cycling in Egypt. It was incredibly dull and boring, for us as much as for them. The only thing that made the day interesting was the beautiful sunset behind the palm trees. Why was this escort necessary? How can Egypt be more dangerous than any other country? Crime rates are pretty low here, and the only places I heard had very occasional danger were some zones of the Sinai Peninsula and the Western Desert due to terrorism. And along the Nile, all we were seeing were villages and farmers. I have a big problem with authority when the rules make no sense, and I wasn't the only one. fun. We all felt stuck, disgusted, and defeated. But let's not forget, we were a special team and bonded pretty quickly over what we were going through. We were not gonna let ourselves be trampled over by a bunch of cops. Things were about to change very soon. But first, here's a little refresher on who I'm cycling with across Egypt. A beautiful group formed by pure coincidence a couple of days before our departure from Cairo. First, you got Tim, a 20-year-old Dutchman.
Tim, what are you doing in life right now?
Nothing.
Tim was actually on his own journey before we met at the Sudanese embassy in Cairo. He decided to put his university studies on hold and leave his country to embark on the most exciting trip of his life.
I'm hitchhiking from Holland to Hong Kong.
But like, say like in the videos.
Hitchhiking from Holland to Hong Kong.
At the embassy, I told him to come and cycle with us instead of hitchhiking to Sudan. So, he bought an $80 bike aptly named Legend and joined us. Oh, and how can I forget? He eats green peppers, raw, for breakfast. And I hate him for that. Then you got Sharif, who I met at a dinner a few days before departure.
Introduce yourself.
This is Assalamu alaikum. I'm a snack king. Snack king.
Absolute snack lover and avid long-distance cyclist, Sharif's story is straight out of the Asal Aswad movie. He's also Egyptian-American, is also a photographer, and also came back from the USA to Egypt 2 years ago, initially because of family matters, but ended up staying to build his cycling hub business here, the awesome Wheelhouse, all while being confronted with the daily chaos of Egypt.
I'm here for recon, man. I'm just here to support. I'm the support vehicle.
And last but not least, you got Flo, one of my best friends since I met her in Barcelona in 2019.
With some people I never met before, and now, hopefully, we're friends.
She's a third culture kid that lived in multiple countries during her childhood and is a law graduate now turned YouTuber. As a travel lover, she now documents her cultural experiences across the world. The day we met, I told her about my dream of cycling across Africa. And her, I really want to tag along for 2 months, progressively became, I want to join for the whole thing. And we've been planning Project Africa together since. And the four of us agreed on one point. We were not going to let the Egyptian police affect us for the rest of our trip. Now that plan A, avoid the police, had failed, plan B was all about embracing it. And we had to make it fun. So here are the rules of the game. If they manage to put us once on a train or their pickup truck, we lose. If we manage to stand up for ourselves and cycle all of Egypt the way we want, we win. It's either going to be our way or the highway, which we had to avoid at all costs, because our strategy was to find a way to lose them. And how do we do that? Take the narrow country roads. The Nile Valley is really large, and there are between 2 to 4 main highways between Cairo and Aswan, but there are also a lot of tiny roads in between them.
Then we're gonna hit some road that he can't go and it'll be off.
We'll take a very tight bend, then he won't be able to turn.
And those roads were the ones we had to focus on, with one direction in mind. Always go south.
Welcome to day 4 of cycling across Africa. And we got woken up by police today that are going to be escorting us from Beni Swift to Marara. Yeah, there's a city called Marara apparently. Let's do this.
With this new infallible strategy, we had no rush to start the day, so we had to fuel up with another typical Egyptian delicacy, ftir mishel. Ftir is a flaky layered pastry with many thin layers of dough and ghee and an optional sweet or savory filling. We all love it so much. And as soon as we finished eating, we got raided by some of the local kids.
Yalla, Rob, for the medal.
This bottle on this pillar right now. Signing autographs for children. They're asking for my Instagram and they don't have a piece of paper to remember, so they want it on their hands. And there's the police behind creating like monstrous traffic. It's just ridiculous.
Mahmoud Fuad.
Mahmoud Fuad, Sharaf, Habibi.
And that's when the police chase started.
The police is now freaking stopping us today, man. And no, we have to continue. No, we have to continue.
أنا عايز أركب على عجلتي وأتمشى براحتي في دنيتي. أنا عايز أركب على عجلتي دي حريتي.
He keeps on following us with different means of transportation. Fucking dude.
We cycled through all terrains to try to dodge them. Dirt tracks, mud, and even agricultural fields, but with no long-lasting success.
We tried to escape the police squad, and we kind of did. We took a country road that was kind of blocked off for cars, but not for bicycles. And he basically found a way to chase us with a freaking motorcycle. He just took the motorcycle of a random guy in the village. When the guy doesn't want to go any further, he takes the motorcycle of another guy in the next village. They want us to take the train back to Cairo, which is not happening at all. We're gonna be cycling all of Egypt. We'll find a way to do this. He's no more on a motorcycle. He's on tuk-tuk or something. I don't know. And there's a whole squad of villagers following me now.
I feel like in a video game, they keep coming out of nowhere.
Getting dirty, boy.
All of a sudden, I hear the sound of the talking walk.
Tim, what's happening, bro?
We're finally getting not rid of the cops because they respawn every single little bit that we go ahead.
Guys, this is incredible. And the police is very angry. This is so funny. What do you think of the cops? Okay, cool. What do you think of the cops? Okay. What about you? You don't think any? What do you think about the cops, bro? You don't think anything about the cops, bro?
I don't know.
You don't know. كلكن هون 1 2 3. The police said that this road here has very dangerous animals and we can't go. We just what the are you doing, man? What is happening, man? What is happening? We just escaped the police again and we're cycling next to the Nile. 30 kilometers to go. Banana fields as far as the eye can see, man. Palm trees to punctuate the landscape.
And right after sunset, we stopped in a random village to play soccer with the locals.
We ended up on a football pitch. The boys joined the game. Sharif and I are just enjoying a cup of tea with the policeman who's just here as well.
Football!
After the game, the police found us again and called backup.
What seems to be the officer problem?
2 truckloads of cops were going to follow us until the next city, while we cycle through the misty night.
And welcome to a night of cycling in Egypt.
We had succeeded all day long until this point, but it was all so worth it. We had finally arrived in Marara city, where we spent the night. And the next day, as expected, the cops were waiting for us.
And here we are today in Marara. We slept okay, at least we got our 8 hours. This room is funky, if you can see.
Cycling across Africa, we are on a tiny budget and purposely carried tents with us to wild camp or get hosted by locals. But the cops gave us no other option but to sleep in overpriced hotels. We were forced to pay when we didn't want to, and every morning they would wait for us outside and we would lose 3 to 5 hours re-explaining to the new group of regional police that we wanted to cycle and not put our bikes in the trucks.
Day 5, and again the police doesn't get why we keep on insisting that it's important for us to keep on going with the bicycle. They're like, dude, you wanna go to that city? Just come with us and the car will accompany you safely. It's a different mentality, I guess. I don't know. Maybe we're crazy and they're the normal ones.
This was becoming our routine. Mornings would start with our daily dose of entertaining the neighborhood kids and eating delicious food.
Breakfast time.
Midday would be dedicated to escaping from the police escort, and the evenings were for the beautiful countryside sunsets. We were adopting the same strategy, and it was working pretty well after all. We were seeing more of what Egypt and its people were all about, and how underrated it was.
Every time we stop, we become the main attraction of the whole village. It's insane. Look at the amount of people that is behind us, just looking at us for no reason. I overheard one of the guys saying it's the first time they see foreigners, which is insane. I don't think anyone passes by those country roads. Beautiful people all around Egypt. Every time we stop, it's incredible. And behind us here, we got the Nile. شو اسمك؟
احنا عبد الرحمن.
سياحة؟ من وين السودان؟ السودان، ما بتعرف وين السودان؟ شو اسمك؟ محمود، شرفنا. شو بتشتغل؟
شغال في الغرفة التجارية بتاعت سجلات هنا في السويس.
يعطيك الف عافية. Habibi. If we followed what all the police said, we would have been in Aswan by now, taken the train and missed all the adventures.
And this one evening, I got exposed to something that changed my whole trip across Egypt. In the outskirts of a city called El Minya, we, as usual, got raided by a bunch of kids. And one of them gave Tim a stick.
What's that?
I got sugarcane. I never tasted it.
Who's that?
It was also my first time tasting sugarcane, and this moment was very special to me.
شو اسمها هيدي؟ كاكا؟
This story arc gets juicy, quite literally, but will unfold later in our journey in Upper Egypt, where we hit the sugarcane fields.
Wherever we stop in Egypt, we feel like superstars. We got a police squad constantly with us, like bodyguards.
The cops, the bodyguards.
And not just 1 or 2 policemen, like 20, bro. And
You constantly have a crowd.
there's like 50 kids around us that are cheering. That's what it feels like to be a superstar, man. I guess.
Wow.
This is better than Justin Bieber, bro. 20 bodyguards for free and a constant crowd of kids cheering.
But the fun wasn't going to last forever. As we were traveling deeper into Middle Egypt, a region that was deemed unsafe in like the mid-90s maybe, the truth was it was getting harder and harder to cycle as the police were getting more tense and numerous. They were following us everywhere we went.
We got 20 cops following us today. This is getting terrible, man. 12 guys in 2 different trucks and a motorcycle following us all day long. And the guy who's filming me right now is a cop.
It was getting impossible to get rid of them.
Bro, the cops are losing patience and they're really getting mad. Sharif has the patience of a saint to deal with them.
As the eldest and the only Egyptian of the group, poor Sharif had to deal with the police for an average of 4 hours every day. But he was staying loyal to his character.
هو الباشا مين؟ أنا مصري. ما تخافش بقول لك أنا هجيب لك حقك أوكي؟ تمشي معايا اتفضل.
To keep the spirits up, he would sneak up behind us while we were riding and give each of us snacks.
King of snacks.
Snack life.
He would even give some to the cops following us. Yes, to the rude ones too. After all, he really was the snack king.
The snack life.
We got snacks.
And while we kept on trying to make the most out of it, things took a turn for the worse on the 7th day.
Okay, let's do this. This is day 7. We're cycling from El Minya to Malawi. Malawi is not a country, it is a city in Egypt, believe it or not. We're gonna be, as usual, taking agricultural roads and trying to avoid the police. Now we became experts at this. It's been a week. So in Egypt, when you pass next to people, the classic sentence you'll listen to is, how are you? How are you?
And as we kept on taking the roads that the cops hated to follow us on, they stopped us. But this time, it seemed way more serious. They were angry and had called the Egyptian version of the FBI. Sharif took the call, and we waited for the verdict.
Nah, man, the cops are annoying. They're forcing us to stop cycling now. Every day, there's huge amount of negotiation with the cops. It takes so much energy and time. It's basically negotiating with people that can't really think or argument with logic because they need to follow the rules because it's the system. And I kind of get it, you know, because obviously they might be threatened to lose their job if they don't follow the system. So we always keep on calling their superiors and the superiors of the superiors and trying to speak and negotiate and be like, yo, there's no rules that say we are obliged to go in the car of the cops to be driven to where we want to go, you know?
Sharif was still on the call. There was more time to kill. So I decided to edit some videos.
Trying to be productive because we got a lot of time to kill because of the police.
Every free time I have in this journey, I work hard to be able to share some parts of it with you. So I would really appreciate it if you can subscribe to the channel and support me on Patreon. That's how I'm able to make a living while making videos. But it's equally as important to live in the present moments. So I decided to socialize with some of the locals around.
They're inviting us for some luqiyya, but I don't think we'll be able to because the police is here.
That's one of the disadvantages of having the cops around us all the time because we are not able to do whatever we want, but oh well. أنا مع نادر هلا. شو اسم المنطقة هون؟
أبو غرير.
وأنت شو بتشتغل؟
فرن.
بالفرن؟ إيش بلدي؟
أيوة.
واو. العالم شو بيشتغلوا هون عادة يعني؟
في الزراعة.
زراعة شو؟
فول.
طعمية إيه؟
طعمية.
عندك حلم بالحياة؟
يس.
شو الحلم تبعك؟
ضابط شرطة.
أوه إن شاء الله.
إن شاء الله.
يلا احكي معهم ورا بركي بيساعدوك.
What happened?
Yeah, so the FBI just called me and they told us that it's illegal what we're doing. We don't have the permissions for it. So we either have to jump in the truck and the train or get arrested.
What?
This is a very unexpected turn of events, but I have a feeling that the day's only getting started.
Yeah.
It's just so frustrating. Why can't they just cooperate with us, you know? If it's not safe, why can't they just come with us and make it safe? It's ridiculous. They're the ones that are creating the problem. Like, they're the ones who are making it dangerous because they're attracting so much attention everywhere we go. We're missing out on, like, super genuine interactions with people. We're missing out on, like, such nice, quiet, like, roads. I told the guy, like, through Google Translate, like, they are ruining our experience. Like, we had such a good time in Egypt and I spoke so well of Egypt and Egyptians, and they are the ones that are ruining this trip. And he just looked at me like, Like, he can't do anything about it because it comes from above, and it's so frustrating because there's nothing we can do.
This really goes to show the disconnection between the people of a country and their government.
There is a very valid reason for the government not to trust its people, and it was one of the main reasons why we had the cops following us everywhere. Let me explain. In recent years, Egypt has gone through a lot of chaos. After around 30 years of authoritarian rule under Hosni Mubarak, things were going downhill. The lack of civil, political, and speech freedom, increased corruption, rising inflation, and obviously police brutality, just to name a few. And that's how everything changed.
Breaking news tonight from Cairo.
Revolution is what we witnessed.
The Arab Spring spreads to Egypt.
The Egyptian Revolution began on the 25th of January 2011 as part of the Arab Spring movement, a series of anti-government protests that spread across the Arab world. The date was set to coincide with the annual Egyptian police holiday as a statement against increasing police brutality.
Protests continue tonight.
Millions of Egyptians from a huge range of socioeconomic and religious backgrounds were demonstrating against the same issues and finally got what they were asking for: the resignation of Mubarak and a total change of system.
President Hosni Mubarak has decided to step down as president.
Egypt will never be the same.
But like with many revolutions, the aftermath got messy.
More challenging series of twists and turns.
Presidential election
took a dark and violent turn.
Sisi yes, Morsi no, Morsi no.
Egypt's new strongman, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi.
I would have loved to get into details, but I really don't want to get banned from entering Egypt again. So I will keep it brief. Basically, since 2011, a sort of paranoia progressively spreads across Egypt. The current government doesn't trust what the people are capable of after such a recent turbulent history, whether it's acting against the regime, like they did many times in the past, or potentially messing with some foreigners. And as stated previously, anything that happens to a foreigner can seriously affect the tourism industry and the foreign affairs and diplomacy of the country.
Since the revolution, we've seen tourism drop annually about $4 billion.
And that's also why some of the police rules are blurry. One or two guys in higher positions on a regional level make decisions on a whim about our fate, based on what they think is the right thing to do, in the best interest of the regime. But in our case, all of this is absurd. Realistically, we're being escorted for 800 kilometers for no rational or well-founded reason. And I'm sure that there are other easier and less troublesome ways to deal with this problem. And with this side note, we were still here with the cops waiting, and we had to make a decision. So we called our embassies and discovered with no surprise that there were no actual laws that made it illegal for us to keep on cycling. So we took the simple decision to keep on cycling, whether the police accepted it or not. They had no right to arrest us. And after cycling through the sunset and the nights, we had finally arrived in the city of Malawi, where we got welcomed by double the amount of cops in front of another hotel we had to pay forcefully.
They want, I don't know, bro.
It was a close one, and we were all so happy to have made it.
I think there's one lesson to take away out of all of this is if it's not illegal, you can do it.
Nothing's impossible.
And no one can stop you from doing what you want.
Yeah.
But with one good news also comes a sad one. Sharif had to leave back to work in Cairo, as he had some responsibilities at the wheelhouse.
We spent a week and a few days together, and I think it's one of the most memorable weeks of my life, to be honest. Like, we've lived so much together, we've laughed so much, we've had so many shits, honestly.
One big shit.
Literally.
Just one big shit.
Literally.
It was the foundation of our jokes.
Sharif was like the big brother I never had. He was the eldest of the group, but respected our decisions, and always insisted that the trip and decisions should be led by us. He would follow and support in any way he could, and his culture of serving others and spreading laughter really set the tone for the rest of the trip down south. We were all truly grateful for him.
You've been incredible, dude.
Hopefully I can join you guys a little bit later on down the road.
I think it's the best start to this journey possible. This man joining, like the serendipitous events that led us to him coming with us. Everything happens for a reason, right? And the journey continues. Let's do this.
Flo, Tim, and I continued cycling south to Asyut, Tema, and then Sohag. Unfortunately for us, we had the worst group of cops on our hands the morning after Sharif had left. They were not going to let us move at all, under no circumstances. This guy had an eagle with a star on his shoulder. He's a lieutenant colonel, and we're saying we were obliged to hop on their truck. I had lost a lot of patience in the last couple of days, and I had nothing else to lose, so I gave it my everything.
كل مرة بنركب ما بصير كل يوم زيت ما فيكم ضد العنود مش كل يوم زيت الحكي مع الشرطة تبع أسيوط مع الشرطة تبع ملاوي.
So he made me speak to the superior of his superior, which I had no concern about what ranking that was. I was making one point very clear. We were going to keep on cycling whether they like it or not.
They're super stubborn. You go, they're like, nope, you're not gonna go 1 meter forward. I'm like, oh yeah? Well, we will. And if you have a problem with that, come here, we'll speak about it. نحن رح ناخذ العجلة ورح نكفي. ما في قانون، ما في إذن. تأكدنا. أنا بعرف. إذا بدك تعمل مشكلة معي، تعال. أكيد تعال. I'm not going against any law ever, and we will keep on going whether they like it or not.
And that's what we did, and it worked.
Patience is a virtue. After 3 hours of negotiating with the police and their superiors and their superiors of the superiors, we finally got the permission to leave. We insisted so much. That goes to show that when you're patient and you know that you're right with what you want to be doing, nothing is an obstacle. Now we're heading to Sohag. We've done more than half of Egypt cycling, which is absolutely incredible. We just arrived in Sohag. We officially cycled 500 kilometers.
Sohag was a very special city in Egypt, not because of its scenic corniche, its beautiful old market, or the awesome food they make, but because they have no police here. Yep, no police. Instead, they opted for the cheaper version, the POLIC. Here, every policeman proudly carries a gun, a quality bulletproof vest, and wears the same exact black cap with the magnificent bright yellow 5-letter words on it. While being escorted by the POLIC, we decided to do the obvious.
We just arrived in Sohag city, and the first thing we did is purchase those caps. POLIC.
Quick, call the POLIC.
POLIC my balls, as we say.
No, don't hit my shot, Rob.
We're so out of place in this town. It's so weird. Everybody's looking at us. Like, do we look foreigner or something? Like, I don't know, dude. And now we're part of them. So if they want to mess with us, we'll mess with them. It's very simple. That's how we roll. Why don't we just go and like leeches on some foreigners we find today? Let's stay with them for a freaking month and bother them every freaking day for everything they want to be doing. Because we're the POLIC, baby. With this now, and we're unbeatable, dude. The cap was like $1, $3 for the 3 caps. In what world do they commercialize caps written on it POLIC, where actual cops wear them, and it's also sold for civilians? Dude, this country is full of surprises, man, I swear.
You can get the POLIC to take pictures of you wearing the POLIC hat.
Yeah. Dude, that's how you get the cops to be your tripod. But actually, this one is very nice, so we gotta give him credit. He was one of the most polite and understanding and flexible cops.
At the end of the day, cops are just here to obey orders. And since they were going to follow us everywhere, that's how we made the most out of them. By ordering them to actually do useful stuff, helping us fix our bikes, being our cameramen, even photographers, and ultimately helping us expose on screen all their ridiculous practices. No, but really, mockery aside, I want to be fair with this whole story. Yes, we were so tired and frustrated every day because of the cops and their policies that make no sense, but the real picture is that most of the cops were also as tired to follow a bunch of idiot foreigners. And a lot of times what they were doing made no sense to them either. They just had to obey the rules. And despite all that, a lot of them have genuinely been super helpful, patient and understanding, and were really nice guys overall. Cops are just guys with a job that is a little harder than most others, trying to instill order in the country that went through a lot of chaos, especially recently. We tend to speak about the police as an entity, but really it's individuals just like us behind their uniforms. They have families, responsibilities, and jobs they can't risk losing. And let's not forget, being part of the Egyptian police is often considered something to be super proud of when you come from a village in rural Egypt. The real problem was with the guys we spoke to on the phone, those in power that are enforcing this escorting habit because of fear for their reputation, their regimes, and their tourism economy. And it all comes down to the gap between the government and its people. After cycling half of Egypt already and seeing firsthand how the country operates, all I wish for Egypt is for a relationship of growth and trust to be established between the welcoming and kind Egyptians and their government, instead of paranoia and control. So that's it. This was our adventure with the police in Egypt. Was our reaction to the rules the right way to operate, even if it didn't make sense for us? Well, probably not, but sometimes taking a decision that is a bit less politically correct makes things a lot more fun and eye-opening, especially when there's no actual harm being done. We just made the cops a bit less lazy and their officials think a bit more about their policies. And I'm sure there's so many better ways to deal with foreigners that simply want to document the beauty of the country. I mean, how do all the other countries manage, even with their instabilities?
The beautiful thing about cycling is every day you have the opportunity to witness sunsets that are as beautiful as the other. Every single day. It's amazing.
The countryside, that's where it is. That's where it all happens.
Absolutely, buddy.
I personally believe that Egypt has incredible potential universal that we will keep on discovering and learning about through our journey. We had already cycled from Cairo to Sohag, and as we keep on cycling down south along the beautiful Nile River, the police problem is far from being over. But now we know what to expect and how to play the game.
شو اسمك؟
محمد.
محمد؟
And I think cops are starting to understand pretty quickly what we're all about. And apparently it is said that they get a lot more lenient once we're past Middle Egypt. I already feel that Upper Egypt will be a whole different adventure. One where we'll be finally able to focus fully on exploring an authentic Egypt with no major distractions, even if the cops will probably keep on following us for a long time.
Let's get it poppin', I'm looking away. Go tell mother I'm cooking the game. Flow like water bubbling up where you want me to make. Taking you back in the day, feeling immaculate, mate. So incredible, still doing a lot. Ain't never doing the minimal, that there is critical. I bet they know who I am, flowing clinical. Trying to walk a mile in my shoes, you